3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasin the Racin.
So yeah, I think we should just get straight into the introduction. So the co-host for this evening is Josh Corner, and we have Jordan Bird. How are we doing?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Love it. You've done this before. You see this role play thing that we're doing. We've already had the welcome chat about 20 minutes ago, straight off the bat. And the best thing is that everyone's missed is how Jordan is immediately thinking of others and already apologised to Josh for not you can't have milk, can you, son?
Oh, yeah, I knew you were going to mention that.
It's about breaking down the barriers. So I
can have certain milks, but I'm not fussy. It was worth it.
Making him sound a pansy. It's not fair.
Yeah, it's a medical condition. I've told you about this before. No, like that. Top-notch cup of tea.
Anytime. You're always welcome up here. Always welcome.
And I must say, it was about 45 seconds before we got offered a cup of tea, which is our record, I think.
No messing.
That's
no messing.
It's because we're in the north, you see. You know what I mean? Like, so bearing in mind, it's what day is it? It's like a Wednesday night. So this probably be coming out Sunday in our time. And this was all very, very last minute. We've come off the back of a roller coaster of a Donington Park, both now for people tuning in, and obviously the name Jordan Bird's popped up. You are now the owner of Paul Bird Motorsport.
So we've gone from just Paul Bird's daughter to now trying to fill his shoes as, I guess, team owner, along with my brother. He's not here. He's racing at the Nordschleife this weekend, so he left today. So that's why it's just me.
Oh, God, look, I'm going to have to start this off with an apology straight away. Me and Chrissy came up on this. Would it be 2 years ago?
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, it must be. It's got to be.
It'll be 2 years ago, and yet the tea making skills are still on point at that point.
Yeah, I was just the tea girl at that point, and now I've been allowed in. I've gone up in the world.
Oh, God. We did an interview with your dad and with your brother, and that story's there. And like I say, I must apologise because I totally ballsed up that interview. Like Chrissy, as normal, did a fantastic job.
Bit of stage
you
fright.
You have no idea. There's me trying to impress him, doing this, doing that wrong, and I just, when you want the world to swallow you up, Josh, I was just like that going. Chrissy just shaking his head on the way home like, I am so sorry for all our avid listeners to this. I'm going to try and make it up to you, and I'm not doing a good job
because
I'm
our best.
Still talking. So it's but no, we've got everything to talk about. We've got Donington, and even in the kitchen we have like the crack before the pre-crack, and I'm really looking forward to this. So the pressure's on you now, Jordan, because it's like everything that you've been through, and it's a bit like
it's been a whirlwind.
It has, but I'm stuck, and I'm thinking, where do we even begin?
I think we're just obviously chatting. We were chatting on the way here, and we were chatting this before. Then I think it would be lovely if we started with what was growing up in Paul Bird Motorsport like, because
I like that.
You said
I didn't suggest
you
that.
said it. No, but you alluded to before. You said I'm no longer just Paul Bird's daughter, which I understand why you would say that, because you must have had that a lot. But
I think when someone like my dad, he had this big presence. He walked in the garage and everyone was scared. That's just how my dad was, and I think that's mint. But because of that, you're then sort of in his shadow a little bit. So it's been an adjustment being the one that, I don't want everyone to be scared of me, but you need to try and have that presence is impossible, and I probably wouldn't be able to do it. But no, going right back to the beginning, it hasn't always been as it is now. It's, you have to start somewhere. So we started off out the back of a van. Even way back, Dad started motocrossing. That's how the love, of it came. So then it was sponsoring riders, then it became having your own team, and it just spirals out of control, and you kind of get a bit hooked on it, don't you? That's why we're all doing what we do. But
would you say you were like immediately hooked? When you went, at such a young age? Because
I actually think I didn't have a choice.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, I actually think I didn't have a choice.
So what's the earliest team that you can remember?
So for me, remembering it's a difficult one to say, because you see all these pictures and there's videos, but the first track I ever went to was Cadwell Park, and my brother and I, being twins, we were 6 days old. So I think, I could be wrong, but it was Knockhill, and then there was a little gap, and then we went straight to Cadwell, and we were teeny weeny, and my granddad on my mum's side at the time had his team. Don't ask me who we were running. Somebody. I'm probably going to say John Reynolds. My granddad and John Reynolds, thick as thieves, Wherever there was Ben Atkins, there was often John Reynolds. And at that time, my dad had his team. And that's how my mum and dad met. And then 6 days old at Cadwell Park. probably not the greatest of tracks to go to when you've just had a baby for my poor mum, or twins, bless her, literally, walking up that hill. I think it gets steeper every year as well, but yeah, so it's right back to the beginning. It's sort of embedded in my brother and I. And
so you've been actually there pre you've been a huge part of the entire PBM team, really, haven't you, from the start?
Yeah, so. It's literally the very beginning. And I always sort of said, you know, we were saying in the kitchen, I knew I wanted to do this. I knew I wanted to have the team in some way or have a big involvement in it. I didn't know what that would be, but I knew my dad wasn't going to do it forever. You can't, it's impossible. There was going to be one day where I thought, you know what, I've had enough. I've done what I can do. And then that's when I expected to come in, and that was my turn. Yeah. And it kind of hasn't happened that way. It's been a click of the fingers and we're in and off you go. So there hasn't been that transitional period where I could follow my dad's footsteps and watch what he did and sort of take notes, and, you know, it's just not been that way. It's been like,
you might find that though, that's that could be like a negative, but also like a positive as well, because look, we all know how, we're just chatting briefly there about grief, and you know, it's difficult. People process it in a different way. Actually, it's going to give you a little bit of focus, and you say that you're potentially not ready for it, but you've probably find that you are.
I think that's the best thing. I think that's why we love racing, because you're in an absolute pressure cooker and we thrive off it. Yeah. That otherwise, if you can't hack it, then you don't need to be here. You know, nobody's making you. Nobody's saying, right, you have got to take over this team. You don't have a choice. It's not being like, I've done this because I want to. I've come in with like 3 rounds to go and it's been chaos.
God. But the thing, like, sometimes like people from the outside looking in think, well, you've been on the sidelines, far from it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think one of my
that's what I was getting at. You very much weren't, you know, like,
you know the game, and I think that is a perfect example of this, how this industry works, and that's very much different, especially from my point of view. You know, I love to race bikes, but for this is now to become a business, and we'll talk about that like further down this interview. But you've grown up in the world and you're very much a part of the foundation. So when you say, like, at the beginning you kind of went, I've just stepped it, you haven't at all.
It has been coming, and we haven't realised it's been happening either. It's sort of slowly, but I think, you know, when I watch and I think about what my dad's done, like, it's unreal, like the amount he has done that I forget about, and that, to be honest, he probably forgot about too.
But we use the word shadow, I'm sorry, out of everyone that we've ever interviewed, I don't have to tell you this. That is a big shadow.
It's a huge shadow.
It is a huge shadow.
Somebody said to me, oh, you know, how do you think about it at the minute? And I said, I've got some massive shoes to fill, and my brother and I's feet are growing. We're getting there, but it's a big, you know, it's 27 years of my dad working his ass off, to be honest, like, with all the people around him. You know, it's not a one-man band by any means, but like, this has been progressing over 27 years. Like, it's a long time.
Yeah, I think people probably don't realise the amount of effort that's gone into PBM, because, you know, Fred Clark summed it up wonderfully in the talk that he did at Alton Park, to say, you know, actually British Superbikes has been, you know, PBM's been just a huge part of his success. And
it's been a constant, hasn't it, I think?
And actually, we'll look at that and saying top team, you know, big budget, like, it's a dream, really, isn't it? Like, it's not a drama for them, but in actual fact, that's not really the case, is it? And a huge amount of effort goes into just even making that happen, to be that top team, doesn't it? So it's not.
It doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you know, it's a slow progression. You start off with sponsoring a rider, it's a small budget, and then, you know, a fine example of it is probably Simon from Vision Track. He started off sponsoring very small, and then gone bang, and now what he's doing, you know, with the lads in Moto3. It's a very similar thing with my dad. It's, you start off with one rider, and then maybe you get 2, and then you buy a van, and then you buy them a bike, and then you buy your own van or your own bike, and they do it, you know, and it progresses. And as you go, you collect more people that come and help you out, and off you go.
Yeah. I just think it's a great, like, I've got so many questions and you've immediately answered them I'm looking at the time, within 10 minutes, but we're obviously going into detail. It's like, one of my big round-off questions is, how do you feel, you know, with how we're losing your father and this team PBM, the castle that this is, and how people from the outside think, does she actually want to do it? No, not. Within 10 minutes, I can see like.
I absolutely love it. And it's mega. I love it. This is like, I know I have walked into an absolute dream team. Like, it's there. I haven't had to do any of the groundwork. It's been done for me. You know, I've been there watching it and taking it all in, but I've been able to go in and try and capitalise from it. You know, the groundwork's been done. I can go in and, you know, it has been chaotic. I'm like, cheers, Dad. Got me in at a great timing, you know, but at the same time as trying to grieve the loss of your dad, it's, for a lot of people, if they lose a friend, a family member, they kind of die and that's it. And you have to shut your door and deal with that just in your family. Whereas you know, you don't want to say in the public eye, but in a way it is. It's in our little public eye. It's, and you know, my dad passed away, and then I think it was like 12 days later we were back at Alton Park, and you're like, I hadn't even got my head around anything then. And I'm like, oh, we've got to go and win races, and people are going to ask me questions, and I think it makes you deal with it a little bit better because you have to think about it. You can't just put it to the back of your brain, and you've got to think about it because you've got to answer questions, which is helpful, I think. I'm gonna ask a very blunt question. Has it hit you yet? I actually had this I had this conversation with my brother. I genuinely think it will be after Brands Hatch because it's been
a lot of emotions.
Yeah, and the last 3 rounds have been bang, 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 one after the, you know, it's been race, weekend off, and then Brands Hatch finale. And I think because we've been working so hard for my dad, and everything you do as PBM is for my dad. Yes, yeah. That's been the overriding thing. So I would say after Brands is when we'll have that downtime. We'll probably go on a holiday.
Well, you'll have the opportunity to, like you said, close your doors and do what that you need to do. Yeah, of course, yeah.
Because it's a process, you know, you both know with losing Chrissy, that's what you've got to process it, because you can't just carry on and not deal with it. Otherwise it will slap you in the face at a later date. Oh God, no, well, we were talking about that as well. And it's like, you know, we're very lucky that we were good friends with Chrissy, but we're not, you know, Grace, you know, and Martin and Karen and yourself and your brother, and, you know, we are very different. Incredibly lucky to know what you're going through, and like, and when Grace got in touch with you to come on the show, it just shows how powerful the pair of you are. Yeah, definitely. You know what I mean? I think you have to turn your pain into power, otherwise, because it's you know, they say fight or flight and sink and swim and all the rest of it. It's all of those things. You can only go one way. And Chrissy and my dad, although they were very different characters, they were very similar at the same time. Yeah. They both had battles to face. They both had struggles to get to where they wanted to be. That's life. And you've got to come out on top of it. And they both did that. And, you know, I think Grace is, you know, we were saying in the house, weren't we, that talking to Grace now is like speaking to Chrissy. Oh, God. As she gets older, it is like having a conversation with Chrissy. And I would hope that, you know, over the next few years that people say, God, it's like talking to your dad. Not everything my dad said I would like to be
known for.
Yeah, exactly. There are a few things.
You know, it's like people will be listening to this, and what I'm really looking forward to is hearing a bit more about you know, your story and everything that. But it's so interesting. Like, and we're going to talk about Grace, and we're going to talk about yourself, and it's that comparison that you said, that you're turning your pain into power, and you are your own person, but then you're so proud that you are, like,
100%.
You know, Grace is herself, you are you, and then
you've got them too as well. Oh, God, I remember, I can't really remember much, obviously, when Dad first passed away, but I remember doing a post and it said something like, to everybody else, Paul Bird was the most successful team owner in British history, but to me, he was just my dad. That was all he was. I never saw him because I didn't have to. You know, I knew the racing was cool, and I knew I loved it, and I knew how successful we were and are, but I didn't have to think about it until he's gone. And now I'm looking at bills that we're paying and crash damage bills and how much they get as that bonus and this. I'm thinking, what? You know, he actually did a hell of a lot. Yeah. And now I'm realising, I wish I could say fair play, but he knew, really. He did. He carried his little chest around. He knew he'd done a good job, I think.
It's funny because when you said we were obviously coming over to do this interview, I was like, oh, that's great. And then when we were driving over here, I was thinking, I've known you for
years,
a long time now, and knowing that you've been a huge part of the team, and you've been there and you've seen it and done it all, and I was really I didn't know how you were going to react.
Yeah.
But within 5 minutes of chatting to you, I just thought you are way more prepared than you probably realise. And what I would say to every other team out there is look out, because
incoming.
Just from just the way you talked about racing and the setup and everything, like you've got an incredibly good approach to it. And you think. You've definitely had the schooling. Like you like you say, it's your life.
You couldn't wish for a better teacher, really.
Yeah, could you? And you wouldn't have realised you were having that.
Not a clue at the time, because we have a big group of people that do it, and my dad would probably be like, "Oh God, I can't believe you said that." But I genuinely thought my dad turned up at a race weekend and took the glory.
Yeah.
Like I honestly thought that's what he did, and I probably have told him.
Helicopter.
Yeah, literally. But this is it. That's exactly it. Came in his helicopter, dragging his Louis Vuitton bag behind him, and living his best life. I genuinely thought that's what he did.
Yeah.
And then I come back and and see the team and they've been amazing, because as much as I've lost my dad, they've lost their boss.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of uncertainty because my dad was sick for probably a month. So my dad wasn't. Yeah. So it started, he missed Cadwell Park, which was when he was really quite poorly. But I would say he started to get sick at Snetterton. And I saw him and I went, "You don't look very well." He went, "Oh, shut up, I'm all right." Typical man.
I had a pint with him in the bar.
Yeah, as far.
One of the lads who he wasn't really chatting to me, but I was with Adrian, and Adrian lives in Carlisle, and they were chatting about Macau, actually.
Yeah, sure.
I think he was creating a divorce situation is what he was doing, but laughing, having a pint.
Yeah, and we kind of got Snetterton out of the way, and I looked at him when he left to go home. I thought, you just don't look quite right. When someone just doesn't have that little glimmer in their eyes. And I thought, so we kept our eye on him a little bit, and he was fine. And then I would say, I can't even think, it was around the start of August. He went, "Oh, I've got feel terrible." So and he went to hospital, and then he was there for 4 days, and they went, "Oh, we think you're all right." And he came home for a week, and my brother and I came up here and looked after him a little bit, because he was a terrible patient. He was a pain. "Get me this, I don't want that, all that food shit, oh my god, do you want to go back to hospital?" Or like, he was a pain for a week.
Back the car up.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, "Get in, you're off." But he was a real pain. But that's when I knew he actually wasn't right. So back into hospital, and then it must have been another 3 weeks, and then we lost him on Friday the 1st of September, but I'd seen him on the Thursday, and I looked and I thought, "Oh, you don't look great." And I thought, I prepared myself. I thought, I'm going to be backwards and forwards from this hospital for a couple of months. But I thought, I've got time to tell everyone, and my team will know that this is where we're at. And then literally, I would say, I left him at 8 o'clock at night, 3 o'clock in the morning, we got a call saying, "You need to come quick." And he'd just taken a nosedive, and basically he'd got pneumonia, and his body just couldn't cope. So it had all just gone to pot, basically. But now looking at it, a blessing in disguise, because my dad would not have wanted to be somebody that needed a round the clock.
Ill patient,
Oh, he was a pain for a week. Imagine long-term ill. It could have been a nightmare for us and for him. So really, it was a blessing. And actually, when my dad was I saw him on the day, and he was still talking, and he said, "My race team," he said, "What are we going to do?" And I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And he went, "It can't stop." He said, "Promise me it won't stop." And I thought, "Oh no." I thought, I'm in hook, line and sinker here. I'm not going to say no. So I went, "Right." I said, "I promise you." I said, "You've got nothing to worry about." I said, "I swear to you, this is going to be fine." And then I never heard another peep out of him, and we lost him at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was a wild journey. It was wild. It happened so quick. And I was like, "Oh, God, well, what do we do now?" And then you're getting all questions, and everybody needs to know. And I thought, I actually haven't got time to deal with this, because it's going to be out before, I have time. And it got leaked on the Riders group chat. God knows how, don't know where it came from. And then I literally had 10 minutes to say, a post, a picture, and it was fired out. And I thought, oh God, I hadn't even left the hospital.
Yeah.
And that's equally, it was a right headache for us, and it was awful, and we hadn't had time to even think about it. But to flip it, you think he clearly was a very popular man in BSB, in bike racing. For it to have happened that quickly, I mean, imagine if you were like Kim Kardashian, it had gone like that, and you know, and that was my dad, and that made me think, right, this was my dad's life, and it's now going to be mine. So then it was kick up the bum, and then we were off to Alton Park within a week. Yeah. So that was how it happened.
Do you know what was like? Ironically, I've been listening to. I love an audiobook, and I've been listening to. I've done Shakey's book 2 or 3 times because I think it's fantastic. Obviously, Dad features.
He'll kill me. I actually haven't read Shakey's book.
Oh my God, Jordan, get it.
You
Listen
think
to
all the success we've had?
I would say
wow.
you then talks a lot about your dad, openly and honestly as well, and was listening to John McGuinness's book actually on that day, and I was going to a restaurant when I seen the post and stuff like that, and the part of the book is chatting about your dad, which was strange, but I mean, fair play to you, because you know, it's difficult to lose anybody, but you're not wrong when you say it is in the public eye, because it is. Yeah,
it's just our own little. You kind of go in the gates at racing, and you're in your own little world,
and you're also used to it because you've grown up with it, and, like we all have, but. British Superbikes is a big thing. It's popular. It's not a small.
Do you know what?
Fry.
As much as I go to every race, and you see all the crowds, until now I don't realise how big it is. Did not realise. Because I've been, you know, we've been doing a sponsorship brochure and updating it all, and like I'm looking at Eurosport figures and ticket sales, and you know, age range that it reaches and countries that it shows, and like it's massive. Yeah. Like I've never had to think about that. I just tip up, have the crack with the lads, with the girls that are there, and it's mega. But now I'm having to look at the other stuff. It is unbelievable. Like what they've done to run the championship. I mean, they get a lot of stick. They're going to. That it's just the way it is. But what they've actually done and the places they reach and how many people they reach is unbelievable. It's amazing. Yeah,
as a marketing tool for a business to use, it's amazing. Like really, when you look at the stat, like you say, when you look at the stats of it and stuff. As much as I would sit to love, and we could probably sit and talk about your dad all night, but this is about you actually. So I'd love to.
Where do you come from? I'm sitting. No, sorry. Honestly,
the accent's not northern, is it?
I'm sitting here. I'm honestly sitting here amazed how you've just delivered that. You know what I mean? No, I'm not being funny, but you can't.
It's not even the accent there. I thought you meant where.
Look, man, you're up north. I know that much. Anyway, the west side. We'll forgive you for that side of things, but like that is just honestly, you can't breed character. What you've got there.
I'm definitely a bird. That's what everyone says. Yeah. I was saying to you both.
Has anyone called you a bird in the negative manner, and you've gone,
no, get out.
All right, bird.
We were going through Dad's bits and bobs, and he has a red plate that says birdie, and I've got my eyes on it. I feel like it's going to happen.
No, but even so, you know, we have our parents and how we're raised, but it's like that.
Thank you.
That what you deliver, and you can. A lot of people can put a face on.
Yes.
You're not putting a mask on. That, like, everything you've said there.
But it's genuine. You don't say it. What's the point of saying it if you don't mean it?
Yeah, 100%.
It could be empty, and you say, and then go home, and you've been dealt with what you've been dealt with, and you've got to crack on, haven't you?
I'm going to be very open and honest. Like, I know I've met you once before when we came here last time, but let's talk. I want to talk about the illusion of money. And sometimes people think if people have wealth, it almost makes them weak in character. Yeah. I'm not seeing that at all. No, because I didn't know your dad. Yes. This is me sitting here. I sat there, and you see that you hear the stories, and you see the businessman. You see that I've got to have that edge, and looking and speaking to you now. Everything there is in full belief. Like I'm not putting this across very well. It's just like you have an edge, and it's fucking great.
I feel like I've been blessed that I've, my family have, we're very comfortable. I'm very fortunate, and I actually do think it makes you work harder. Like there's points I've been on holiday, my dad's got left into first class and made my brother and I go right into economy, because it's just to show us that
I knew I recognised that before, man.
The other way, we've been on holiday in the but you have to.
Can you get first class flights to Skeggy?
It was actually Cardiff.
I thought it was Blackpool actually to the pleasure beach. But no, like I think it makes you work harder because everything's not given to you on a plate. You have to. Everyone thinks it is, but you've got to be tough stuff and do your own thing.
100%. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
You know what's mad? You can't. You know when you try and take away something from someone, you can't imagine them any different. I'm trying to imagine the Bird family without the money now, and I feel like you'd get the same result. In a roundabout, you know what I mean?
I think it's just how you're wired, isn't it?
It is.
I think it's how you're wired up.
Yeah, it's
interesting.
Yeah, like you just said. What I find great actually is the PBM has been going for such a long time, but the way that you talk about it now is that you stepping into this role. Yeah, you could say it's happened prematurely and not necessarily in the way that you would have liked it, but actually. You've been discussing it and it's something you've been looking to do.
My poor dad's like, you're doing my head in. Because it was a conversation that we had many times.
And I think that it's actually fantastic for the sport. Obviously, we've had a huge loss, but the way that you talk about that, you might be the person, and I'm very sure you probably will be, that'll take it to the next level. Things evolve. Yeah. And excuse that it's bike racing for a second. Lots of children inherit their families' businesses and roles. And when I mean inherit them, I mean...
they just get legally given them and off you go.
But they actually step into those roles and in lots of cases go on to take them to new heights. And I honestly could see that happening for you just in the way that you've spoke about it this evening.
I think, there's lots of things that my dad did where I thought, oh my God, you're stuck in the old days. And, I think I can bring in like new things that would not make it better, but would help make things easier, would improve things. Like I've said, this is like, it's not the end of a chapter, but it's sort of a turn of a new page, if that makes sense, because it's going to be PBM. It's always going to be. Some people said, would you change the name? Not a chance. I was like,
no, of course
they've won 8 championships. I'm staying as PBM and carrying it on. I'm not starting from 1. What's the point in doing that? So it's not a new book, it's not a new chapter, it's just a turn of a page. It's carrying it on and doing things slightly differently, which I think the team probably, it's quite welcomed.
And actually, sorry Dom, as well, you're one of at this precise moment in time I can only think of one other female team owner and manager. That's a fantastic thing in itself.
But you almost forget that, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
Not male, female, or Martian.
You've obviously got Feiho, but then you've got Dow Racing too.
Yes, of course.
So with Samai and Clarissa, and Samai especially, she's quite at the forefront of that and she loves it and she absolutely thrives off it. And then obviously with Faye and funnily enough, I was talking to Faye at the weekend and her love of racing actually started because of my dad. So her and her sister sponsored our team to do Macau, and that's how she fell in love with it. So then she's gone on seeing what my dad did and thought, I want to do the same
thing.
And here she is and doing a good job as well, because the way she's done it, she sort of, I think she sort of bought a team that was already existing, and did her own tweaks and things. But it's not easy when you've never done anything like that before. Like I've been able to watch, my granddad on my mum's side had his team, and my dad, I've been able to watch, but she was chucked in right at the deep end, massively at the deep end. And, and I think they're doing a good job.
I think it's just great to have a bit more women involved at that level in the sport. That's not I'm not trying to be political here when I say that, and people are people at the end of the day, but it's typically a male-dominated world.
For sure. And for diversity, it has to be, because the crowds that are watching, you look, there's kids, girls, boys, everybody is there, and it is for everyone.
I'll probably get rinsed for this in the comments, right? But I honestly think, in lots of ways, women bring a very different perspective to men.
100%.
Some of my current boss is a man, so I'll be careful about how I say this, but the 2 best bosses I've ever had working in the last 10 years of working were both women. and they just had a very different outlook on things. And I don't know if it's just a female trait or whatever, but there seems to be, this is going to sound awful, but I want to say there's like less dick swinging and things.
It makes sense, because I think a lot of men sometimes carry this ego.
Yeah.
And I think as a woman, you don't. Like, I have no ego whatsoever. I know I'm so... It sounds so weird to say fortunate, but I am so fortunate to be in this position. Obviously, it's not how I wanted it to happen, but you know, but I now have to work my arse off to keep it going. You know, and whether you're a man, woman, whatever, you do the same thing. It's irrelevant, isn't it? But I think maybe an organisational point of view, I do actually think women are better, because Johnny, our team manager, sometimes I think, what are you doing? Like, he's got all these emails and tabs. Like, I cannot cope with a tab open.
That's probably a generational thing, more than a male and female thing.
It's got to go. Yeah. So he's learning from me.
Has there been any part of you, even in the last few weeks, or even earlier part of your life, that doesn't want to do this?
No.
That's incredible.
Yeah, no.
I think that's clear. Like, that's just...
I know it's clear, but you know what I mean? It's a bit like...
Yeah, no, no, not at all.
Not a single bit of doubt, no.
So, I mean, the last 2 years were pretty... they were shit. It was shit.
No, it was, because I'm trying to think, this is terrible, I'm trying to think when me and Chrissy were here. I think it was 2 years ago, and it was... Christian was riding for you. I think
Christian was still riding for us. Yeah, so he rode for us in 21 was his last year with us, and you know, the bikes were not good enough then.
I was going to ask what if you were going to put your finger on an answer,
the bikes weren't good enough.
Right.
But again, we were talking about things evolving. It happened, you know, a few years ago, Ducati were at the top and nobody else could keep up with us, and then it switched and Yamaha were completely unbeatable. We couldn't do anything to get even close to them. We were fighting for points, which was ridiculous already. And then again, now you look and it's flipped, and there are obviously tracks that are going to favour bikes. It's the nature of the beast, isn't it? And Thruxton is a fine example of that. We just could not get it right at Thruxton. They tried everything in the most methodical way possible. It wasn't like we were throwing spanners at everything, no idea. It just didn't work. The bike just did not work there. But then, you know, you go to Snetterton, we had Tommy did the triple. You know, it's just the way it is. It swings and roundabouts. But I would say 2021 and 2022, that the bikes weren't good enough. But Christian, you know, he was actually fighting for the championship in 21.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what happened the last two races, but the third race, he got knocked off by Danny Buchan. And I remember, because if you remember, they got married. Poor Christian and Nicola got married pretty much straight after, and he'd actually hurt his hand, and I was like, oh no, if this is his wedding finger, she's gonna go mental. And luckily it was the other hand. But you know, and then he ended up going from second, third in the championship to finishing fourth, and it changed like that. And then 2022 was just a write-off. The bikes were just not good enough. There were no new parts, but because they knew that coming into 23 we had the upgrades, and you know, and that's the only reason why I think my dad could carry on, because he knew coming into this year, we're going to get a bit of a rest. And
how much, like, growing up with your father, and like, did you ever see any quit in him? Any close moments? Anything like that?
No.
So that's where it's coming from, isn't it?
A few times where he's like, oh, I've had enough of it. This is pissing me off. A normal conversation that anybody would have in any job you do, no matter what.
That's it, isn't it?
You sometimes come home from work, you've had a crap day, you don't want to do it anymore.
There's talking about something normal. And doing something, isn't it?
For sure.
And a very close friend of mine always has this saying, talkers and doers. And it's clear that you guys have been doers over the years.
You know what's interesting sitting here though? It's like your dad actually had the fun times of motorbike racing.
Oh yeah.
No. I'm not talking about a generational thing. It's like he got on a motorcycle and enjoyed it. You and your brother, unfortunately,
have business jumped. Now, isn't it?
Well, you've always been a part, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've always from the cot straight away.
Yeah, straight into
You've walked into a garage where You've got to win.
Yeah. It's so funny because there's pictures of my brother especially fast asleep in the garage at like 3 years old. And you think, what normal kid
would do that?
Would fall asleep while there are bikes going around? And, you know, we know how noisy it is. Fast asleep. And you think, yeah, it's kind of embedded. I think we're pretty stuck, aren't we?
Yeah.
No, but like competitive, you know, like I was like raised in like race, and my dad's raced my entire life, and you know, Grace is on the same path, like with what she did with Chrissy. But it's interesting how you don't know anything else but competitive.
Yeah, 100%.
And you're like smiling and sitting there, but like it's like you
know nothing else.
I can imagine anyone worse to go to a track day with than you. You know what I mean? Why aren't you winning intermediates?
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things. Like I don't know what my life would be like without this, because I've never had to experience it. And I think when it's so deeply embedded in you, I like, what do normal people do at a weekend?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? Like, I sit at home, I'm like, oh, you know, what's she doing? You know, my brother, when we were kids, he was like, should we get the lawnmower out and go and put a track in the field? Or that's what we did as kids. And that was how, you know, I don't know what you do. It was weird.
If you were going to imagine anything, what would you be doing? It's a good question for you as well. It's interesting, like, cause I couldn't imagine my life, like, you know, but sitting on your drive at 9 o'clock at night, for God's sake.
I'd probably be on holiday a lot more. I reckon I'd bang out a few holidays without racing.
You say that, but you've got a different, you know, you've got your own path as well, because you were telling us that, you know, you've got your own salon and everything like that.
I opened my own beauty salon when I was 16, straight in, left, well, I went to college, left, and I was like, oh, I don't want to work for anyone. Can't have time off for racing. My brother was in the first year of his racing career then, and I loved going with him.
Yeah.
And I thought, how else am I going to be able to get time off for racing? And it just wasn't going to work. So started my own little thing, and I do love it and still do now. And that is, you know, not many people have a job where I used to go racing and it was pressure and stress and all this adrenaline flying everywhere. I used to go to work in the salon on a Monday and be like, zen. Like, who has that? Nobody. I had the best of both worlds. So now I don't. So the shops, obviously, we've got to make a bit of a change there. So hopefully someone's going to come in and rent that and keep it going for me. And then, yeah, I'm just going to be stressed all the time now.
You've definitely got a very entrepreneurial mindset, haven't you? It's not, which you're going to need. You're going to need
100%. You've got to. Yeah, for sure.
You've definitely got the character of thriving under pressure, but are you not nervous about the enjoyment getting knocked out of it? Or, you know, it's, you know, when we were talking, we had a little group chat. We sound like the bloody WI motorcycling, to be honest, just for getting together. Christian, we keep mentioning him tonight, but like Christian was talking about your passion then becoming a job and sometimes knocks the edge. Yeah, that's what he was saying. Are you worried about that? Or
I would obviously hate for that to happen.
Yeah.
In all honesty, it wouldn't happen.
See,
not a chance.
Because when you come back, because we all have days like that, like
feeling pumped up.
Everyone has a bad day.
Yeah, and then you get home on a Monday morning and you deal with real shit, and you're like,
yeah. Like, if that was actually so. For instance, like, you go to Alton Park, Donington, just gone, was a disaster. I drove home thinking, oh God, all that money, I might as well have just burnt it. What a waste. You know, it's the worst thing ever. I've had enough. I don't want to do it anymore. Like, literally, that's what I thought. Like, this is rubbish. And then I got home, and underneath our TV in the kitchen are our championship trophies. And then there's a wall next to it that's full of helmets, and cool helmets as well. And I looked and I was like, oh, no, this is actually quite cool. Like, I do want to do this. This is mint.
Yeah. Right, you went there, so I'm going to pull the pin out.
Yes. This year.
You go to Donington Park.
Yes.
You've got two riders. They're 1-2 in the championship.
Yes.
They take each other out.
Yes.
What do you do? Let's just talk.
This is basically Coronation Street, isn't it? You know, if you were going to write a script, so I'm sitting here, right, come on, Corrie, episode whatever, this is what's going to happen. We're going to make it juicy. We're going to make it dramatic. It happened.
Yeah.
I stood on pit wall with the lads, as you do, watching, seeing them come over the crest, and I thought, oh, it's a bit close, this is. And then bang, and you think, oh my God. And then there's cameras left, right and centre, and you're thinking, I cannot react here. So I just walked off.
Yeah.
And I went in the garage, and there were all these people in there, and I just was like, right, I was super calm. I was like, whoever is not team management, mechanic, engineer, whatever, out, and everybody fled. And I was like, oh, this is my job now. Like, this is what my dad would have done, and I'd have been like, oh,
that you know what? That was going to be my, like, when we got to this and we're here now.
Yeah.
What would your dad have done in that situation? And compare
these boys
yourself
are
to that.
lucky my dad was not here, seriously.
Right.
So I'm finding my feet. I cannot go in all guns blazing because I haven't earned that yet. But my dad...
brands, I have now earned this.
Yeah, I've been through the works. I am doing it. But no, my dad would have thrown a few Fs, arms and legs everywhere, and he'd have gone out the back of that garage, rotors running in the helicopter, and he'd have checked out, and he'd have been at home within... I reckon he could have probably done it in an hour. So he'd have been off, and them boys would not have heard from him for a week. That would have been it. And they would have known that, you know, they were in deep trouble. But equally, you flip it the complete other way. No rider ever goes out to take anybody out. That's just not what you do. And if you do, then you should not be racing, because just no
I don't
brainer.
think anybody ever does.
Of course you don't. And I love Tommy, and he's mint crack, and I know he did not say, I'm going to knock him out. You know, it's just not going to happen.
He's putting himself... We're not talking about health risk.
No,
that's obviously... But we're talking about champion... Like, and these two...
But you think the whole... It could have easily been a broken collarbone and a broken leg for both of them. And that's championship over for not just the boys, but my team as well. And I think this is the most important year to win a championship for my dad. You know, and that is obviously added pressure. But I think you have to, like we said, you've got to channel that pressure into being better. And, you know, it was a mistake. It happened. There's no point in dwelling on it, because you're not going to change it either. It's happened.
But the most difficult thing about Donington was, unfortunately, I'm going to go back a little bit further, was Alton Park.
Yes.
And, you know, you've got your dad's tribute. You know, this whole week, that whole weekend was your dad's.
It was about my dad.
It was 100% about your dad. And then...
And it was amazing. And you know, BSB did, and the same when they did it for Chrissy, actually, they did such a good job of doing them justice. Like, when you look back at the pictures of Chrissy's at Brands and my dad's, they were packed. There were people everywhere. Yeah. You know, we were all jammed in like sardines. And I think that is mint. Like, that just shows the people that they were. And I am so grateful that as a family, you know, we've got pictures of that forever. Yeah. What family, apart from the Rouses and other people who have experienced it, will ever have that? So I'm super grateful for what they did, and they smashed it. And they've the big boards of all the pictures I've got at the workshop, and we're going to put them up, and they're going to be in the entrance. And you know, nobody gets anything like that. No. But that weekend was about my dad, and obviously it's no secret that both riders said things that they probably shouldn't have. But, you know, you've got adrenaline flying everywhere. I will never know what it's like to feel the adrenaline that they do. You two do. Your brain doesn't work properly. You know, it's just...
I think that's an obvious thing.
Yeah, it's very true. But when you've got all that flying, it's just not going to... It's just not... Clarity is not going to come out your mouth,
It's like, the best way to describe it is, to someone who's not experienced it, is... when you're having a mint time in the pub and you're pissed.
Yeah.
And someone says something and you see it and you're like, I wish I had not said that. Didn't come out right,
yeah.
You know, or the next day you're like, oh.
My dad always used to call it verbal diarrhea. He said they just open their mouth and it pours out like that. And that is just what happened. Yeah. So, you know, there were things that were said that I was disappointed with, and I have spoken to both riders, and they were like, do you know what, we messed up, and we are sorry. It's high pressure, it's high adrenaline, it's high emotion, especially that weekend. It was going to happen, but you know, a few things went on that I was disappointed with, that I thought did overshadow the weekend as a whole. But you know, that's for myself, my brother, and our team manager Johnny to resolve in-house, and it was.
It's a very public in-house situation.
Yes, because everyone wants to know. They want to know, what did you say to them?
Well, that's the thing. But you know what?
I think we can imagine what you said.
A round of F-bombs.
When you think you've gone from that situation to, you've been put in this, like, this is my point of view. You have been put in a situation in yourself to go, this is like. You probably didn't plan it. This is how I react.
At a worse time,
That's what I mean. It's like, this could have happened a year down the line, and you'd be like, right, people know who I am. Yes. But you have had to go into there going,
Yeah, I sort of look at it now as Donington Park was my round one, because Alton Park was very much about my dad. Alton was Paul Bird, and that's how it should have been. But whereas Donington, we'd done all that stuff. The dust had settled a little bit. The not the freshness of it. That's probably not the right way to say it, but it wasn't so.
You've had a weekend to understand it.
It wasn't such a vocal point. So I do feel like Donington was round one.
And then...
Yeah. But we should have had, at Donington Park, should have been, 1-2s, banging them out in every race. No doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
Saturday, with the rain... We had a disaster. We made the wrong choice.
Your bike suffers in the wet.
They're terrible in the wet. Yeah. They're so powerful. They're terrible in the wet. It's just...
Even when the lads have had results on them throughout the year in the wet, they look like they've been
average.
On a knife edge as well, you watch it and you think, I wouldn't want to be sat on that.
For sure.
That's no disrespect to the team or anything. They're just difficult.
Yeah, I know, I say I know nothing about the bikes. I don't know much about it at all. But
you say that.
When I've...
No, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Though. But listening into conversations, our crew chiefs say the Ducati, you need to ride like it's a MotoGP bike. The slower you ride, the harder it is. It's just going to be a terrible thing. And the bikes aren't user friendly at all. You've got to know them inside and out.
Yeah.
And when you look at Glenn, he's jumped on that for the first time this year, and he has done a mint job. Him and Tommy are on equal amount of wins, but they've both had 8 wins. We've won 16 races this year. That's mint.
Yeah.
And you look what he's done in, 10 rounds now. It's mega. And I went to see him today in Birmingham, actually, and we had a bit of lunch and caught up and, put the world to rights as you do. And
it didn't have a bamboo cane or a big thick book to hit.
It was in the car just in case, but we didn't have to use it.
Let's go to the car park, boys.
Yeah, about that. No, we didn't have to use it. And I think what he's done in 10 rounds on that bike is mega.
Yeah.
And he said to me, even at Donington I was learning. He said, I've watched videos back and, I've looked at data and I've changed this and then I felt mega. And you think he's still learning.
Yeah.
What can he do going forward? And, I feel really hopeful that I think we can win quite a lot of championships together. And, which is wild for me because he rode for us years ago, and timing, I think, is everything. And I think this is a fine example of timing being the perfect timing. Going forward, I think we can be quite, a strong team. And Tommy, again, he's gone from being a single man band with Motor Rapido and it's only solely on him, and then he's come into a team that's it's big pressure. You've got a teammate that's fast, probably I wouldn't say one's better than the other in any way, shape or form.
The same amount of wins between them, it says it, doesn't it?
I would say, if I was being listen, I like Glenn a lot, but I would say Tommy's got the competitive edge at the minute. However, I wouldn't like to be in what happened to the weekend might fire Glenn up. What I mean is that you might see the problem you've got is the last round of the season is always shit weather.
Correct. Our bikes are terrible in shit weather.
Not what you are after.
And Tommy's visor actually steamed up in that last race.
Did it really?
I think he was 9th and he managed that really well because his helmet came in and was terrible.
Yeah.
So, something like that at Brands Hatch, when maybe, there's hardly any points between them, that is a win or a loss in a championship.
Yeah.
Temps we're talking in this one.
And Haslam's, the people can still win it.
Because there's still possible that 8 can win it.
Yeah,
at the minute
because of the new format with the point situation and stuff.
So, and which is it's proper. That's it's so good. But I think Tommy, Glenn, Kyle, and Leon, especially Kyle and Leon, they're just going about their business quite quietly while my two are bickering it out at the minute, which they are. I'm not going to lie, they are bickering it out. They've just gone about slowly, and the points. I think it's 35 odd behind now for Kyle or Leon.
You can only control the controllable.
Correct.
So
once they go out on track, that's down to them.
How are you going to manage that? Just the blunt question, I can't I'm not even going to say the word team orders because as far as I see it, the gloves are off. The gloves are off.
So somebody said that to me the weekend, just gone, who would you like to win? I do not care who wins. As long as it's a PBM rider, I don't care. Yeah,
but that's good. Like, people might take that the wrong way because we're talking about people. But
yes. But it's for me, they both ride for our team.
Yeah. They're employed to do a job for you.
Correct. And whoever does the best job and wins the championship is irrelevant to me. Do not, as long as that's another championship on our list and that's number 9, it could be anybody's name.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me. I love them both the same. I've got great crack with both of them. They've been mega, and you know, I think in a strange way we'll probably be bonded forever because they were my dad's last riders.
Yeah.
They were the last people he picked.
Yeah.
They've been through the process of grieving with us because, you know, we are grieving as a team. You will have a special bond with them forever. There's no doubt about that.
I can't remember you having a season being so dominant with both riders.
The only time we have would be 2019 with Scott Redding and Josh.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So that we ripped it up that year as well. It was great.
Too, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that would be one of the years, and it was mega. You know, it was a proper. But I'm as much as 2019 they just didn't speak at all. Scott and Josh did not talk. Both sides of the garage didn't talk, just the way it was. If you can get on with your business like that, fine. But that's not how my dad wanted the team to be. So this year, people probably haven't noticed, but my dad at the back of the garage now has the data engineers and crew chiefs, the 4 of them sitting together.
I did notice that.
Yeah, so that is, you've got to keep the team together, you know, because they're missing out on weekends with their families. It's just the way it is, and you've got to work together as a team, and that's why he did that, and that has worked really well because it's no secret the riders don't like each other, and it's fine if you don't like each other. You can't like everyone. That's the way the world works.
Yeah.
But
it's very difficult to like anybody who you're racing against.
Of course, it is. First person you want to beat is your teammate as well, isn't
especially
it?
in the situation.
And the word teammate is so stupid.
It is.
In this
It
game,
is crap, isn't it?
You know what I
agree. Because they're not your mate.
No,
they are not your mate. They're in the same team as you, but they're not your mate.
No.
And I think I'm really super grateful now that my dad did do that because it's kept the team together, because it could have very easily gone back to how it was in 2019 where it was just very separate.
Yeah.
There could have been a blackboard in the middle of the garage and everyone would have been happy with that, but that hasn't been the case. The boys tolerate each other, they goad each other, it's tactics, it's games, it's a controllable that they can do off track. You know what, they can't do a lot off track, but that is one of the things. How they react to each other is one of the things they can control.
And I suppose actually it's healthy competition, isn't it?
If
as long as they're not bringing your team into they're not portraying your team in a negative manner, then really that's sort of out of your hands, isn't it?
It's game on. Do what you want to do.
Fair play to you, because a lot of teams would have maybe been a bit more public about the way they've dealt with the riders, but I quite like your approach. I think
you can try and control things too much, and you put too much pressure on the pressure cooker that's already there. You have to sit back and say, do you know what, there are certain things I cannot control. I can't control how the boys' brains work. They're wired up that way, and that's the way it is.
But you can control the bollocking.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you can I can control how we deal with it beforehand and afterwards. That's what my job is. The rest of it, once they're out on the track and, you know, the lights go out, not that it's not my problem, but I cannot physically control that.
Yeah.
Would you say in yourself you'd have to be tougher than your dad because of this situation?
I know.
Because you've lost your dad in the last 2 rounds. You've been chucked in the deep. Sod the male female thing. Well, that does not matter.
Yeah, I would say so.
Do you feel you have to be harder?
Yeah, because I have to earn, you know, I'm a young girl that's stepping into her dad's shoes. I've got to earn their respect. You know, it's not going to happen overnight. That's going to take time, but I've got to earn it. And they should respect me as much as they should my dad.
Yeah.
Whether I'm here for 27 years or it's 2, 3, 4 years, it's still the same level, because if we can keep winning championships, there's no reason why they wouldn't respect me or my brother.
And how you're handling those situations as well, that's where the respect's built, isn't it?
Is.
And even how you're talking right now,
that's
I think
what I mean.
you're actually talking very openly, but you're being very there's no bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I've said. This is what I've done. I'm not hiding
At the end of the day, like, what
It's
the
not an
boys
act.
are doing. No,
I'm gonna be honest with you.
This
Coming
is
over
just
here,
a few mates having a chat. Like, there's what? Yeah, I can't. There's nothing to lose, is there?
you would say this in front of Eurosport.
Yeah,
you know,
I would say in front of the two riders. The chat I had with Glenn today was very similar to this. You know, I did say to him, if my dad was here, you'd be in big trouble. And, you know, and that will come eventually. But
I don't think you're going to have any trouble having riders in your team respecting you.
Yeah,
if I'm honest.
I hope not.
Because the other side of it is, like, without sounding callous about it, your dad's not here.
Yes.
And it's a bit, and I can see in your eyes, it's like,
100%.
hold on, look, Glenn or Tommy or whoever.
Yeah.
Look,
he's not here now.
He's not here.
This wouldn't have happened if your dad was here. Because you look on social media, that's been caning. Oh, that wouldn't have happened if Birdie was here. I'm telling you now that 100% would have happened.
Yeah.
Though.
The fallout would have been much worse.
The fallout would. This would have happened whether my dad was here or not. Because, especially the incident at Donington, that happened on track. My dad couldn't control that.
No.
You know, that was down to them, and it was a mistake, and it was an accident that happened. You know, whether my dad's here or not, that would have happened.
You know what's interesting? Like, you would talk, like, in the kitchen, and I want to go down that route. It's like people think people are just handed over. Like, you know, this team is now yours because you are the daughter. No, we're talking about, like, there's legal exercises. There is huge loopholes to jump through, you know, and we were even talking about...
It would have been so much easier just to say, let's sack it off. We'll finish the year and sack it off. It would have been so much easier because my dad was the sole director of PBM. So... to get that changed, you have to go legal routes, and it is a faff. But when you want to do something, you'll do anything to do it, won't you? So that's where we're at.
But you haven't just been, there's, you know, there's a pillow. Yeah. All right, put a jacket on. There's your Louis Vuitton bag. Off you go down the grid. No,
there's your helicopter. I actually haven't been to a round in the helicopter, which I'm fuming about because I feel like that should have happened.
It's already.
I've been driving.
There's time yet. But it's interesting. No, but it's almost getting the image across. You know, not even the image. The facts across that. You know, it's not even given to you, and that was actually a bit of a shock. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not being funny, Josh. You and me could start a team, not as a business. That's the thing. This is a business for you, not.
Yeah, people don't. Yeah,
as much as it is your passion and it is your life, you step back and my sponsors are putting a lot of money into our team. These aren't just mates that are having the crack that get pissed every night. To be fair, we have a great crack. My team is mint. The morale's amazing. I've got some proper good people around me. Sponsors, team members, everything, mega. But sponsors are putting a lot of money in and equally putting a lot of trust into me because my worry was... Were our sponsors here? Were our sponsors here for Paul Bird or are they here for PBM? And that was one of my big worries, that they'd finish the year because it was my dad's year and then would they sack it off after, because there's a lot of uncertainty, of course there is, but everybody's been mega supportive and they're like, do you know what? We can help you carry on the legacy because that is what it is. It's now my dad's legacy and that's what I've got to carry on. And
it's not just you. You know, I'm going to go off the subject of Jordan at the moment. It's you and your brothers.
Yes.
Now, and how, to be blunt, I know he's not here at the moment, but how's he taking? Like,
it's a lot for him, you know. I think a son to lose their dad is a big thing. Your best of mates, it is what it is.
I know, but there's always that saying, daddies and daughters. You know, there's that old school saying, and you can definitely see that here.
Definitely.
But even so, but how's it? Because your brother races, and then he's got a lot of say in this as well.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
You got
Frank and I, we're twins, and he is my best mate in the world. You know, wherever.
The only sibling.
There's three. There's my sister. Well, we've got a sister as well, Lexi. So she's 15. She's a football girl. So she loves racing. She'll watch. She's fully supportive, but she's not interested. So,
but she's competitive though.
Yeah, she is. She's a beast.
You put the competitive nature in, they'll come in, there you go.
But for my brother, it's really, I feel like we are in a really fortunate position because my brother being a racer, he is so hands-on with the rider side of things. So he sits in the garage and looks and he's like, if this was my race team as his car team and I am racing, what would I want my crew chief to do? What would I want my mechanic to do? What would I actually want my team owner to say to me? He's got that perspective that I will never have. You know, I'm not a racer. So it's like, it's another little thing in our back pocket that I think is really going to be helpful.
The big question for me, just at the top of my head there, is there a good cop, bad cop? Or is this a couple of westerns spooling in? You know what I'm trying to think?
Yeah, definitely. My brother's very, what my sister said. Yeah. You know, he's in a crowd.
The bad cop.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I would say so. I would say so. But, you know, he's got his own racing to focus on. And, you know, like I said, that's why he's not here. He's got his own commitments. But he is fully, like, I don't want people to think he's not fully invested in this, because he really isn't.
Yeah.
He loves this as much as I do as well.
But you'll be sort of out front, if you like.
And he will be the behind the scenes with the lads. What are you happy about? What are you not happy about? And, you know, because he's got that point of view that I will never have.
Like you're referring to us to, it's that adrenaline element.
For sure.
You know, and
he knows
you've got
how
that
they feel.
First hand, haven't you?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you're racing, racing adrenaline's the same.
He knows, you say things you don't mean in the heat of the moment. We all do, but it's obviously heightened when you're going through what the lads
are. You definitely never lose that. As it doesn't matter if you've raced the flipping trike, like if it's in you just don't lose it.
Yeah, no, you don't. You've either got it or you haven't, and that's why some people don't make it in racing, because they can't cope with the pressure, and they actually don't have that instinct in them, because it is instinctive. Like it happens. You don't know you're going to be this fired up for something. It's just what it is. And if you don't have it, then it's like they say, if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen, don't they? And it's the same thing.
Yeah. I like that.
But
I like that.
We'll go with that one.
Sorry. No, go.
What I'd love to ask you about, I'll say the future of the team.
Yes.
But I don't mean tomorrow, next week, 10 years.
To come.
I don't mean detailed plans. I mean, when your dad was last interviewed here, he sort of suggested, he didn't suggest, he said, what he said was, we've done our time of nurturing young talent.
Yes.
And doing this stuff, and really we need to be winning championships. Absolutely.
Yes.
Understand that. Is your view exactly the same as that, or is there a mix?
To be honest, me sitting there, he was talking about, to be blunt, the end of PBM.
Yeah, he was. He was.
You know what I mean?
My dad was at the point that you kind of had a chat with him. We weren't in the best situation results-wise either. And I think when things are a bit crap, it's very easy to be a bit down in the dumps about it.
Yes.
If you asked him the same question now, we've won 16 races this year, he'd be like, oh, well, this is mint, you know, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. For me, rider-wise, as a team, we love to go racing knowing we could win a championship. I don't want to go racing thinking I'm going to be fighting for points, because my granddad on my dad's house put a lot of his own money into this, and still does to this day, and I am so grateful for him. And I don't want to, it sounds awful, but I don't not waste that money, because it's not a waste at all, because there's some super talented young, you know, lads and lasses coming through. But it's one of those things. I want to turn at racing and know we can win races.
Yeah, damn right.
And that's just the way it is.
I totally agree with that. And that history has shown, you know, it's never the experience talks. You know what I mean? It's not like the 19-year-olds who are like. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, of course.
He's always looked down the.
I think for me now, and my brother as well, you know, the next few years is about getting results and about us finding our feet. And you know, with two solid riders that I know either of them could win the championship. In the next few years, once you know, because PBM will change. It's evolving. Anything evolves. I would love to have a dead cert rider. So the prime example is Shaky for us. So
that's correct. That's
exactly my point. So you had Shaky, and then we had Glenn. Glenn was brand new to superbikes. He came first, you know, his first outing was with us. So you had one that was pretty much a dead cert, and then one that you're bringing on.
Aye.
And I think it's because a rider is not a PBM rider straight away. I think it's learned. I think you become a PBM rider with time. And that's all my dad's doing. He, you know, you come in as you do your job, but I think you earn being a PBM rider. That's how it is for me.
I agree.
Respect is hard earned and easy lost.
Yeah, it is. And it's like that's none of my doing. That's just the way my dad is. I think if you are good enough to be a PBM rider, then you should grab the opportunity with both hands, because this team is the best in the paddock, and I am fully convinced by that. And I would never say anything, you know, from hospitality staff to workshop staff to truck drivers to, like, I have the best people in the paddock without a doubt.
Have you got any fear of failure in yourself?
Yeah, you don't want to, you never go into anything thinking, oh God, if this doesn't work out, it's going to be embarrassing, isn't it? And that would obviously be my worst nightmare. But I genuinely believe with the people around me, because this isn't just me and my brother, the people we've got around us, 100%, we're going for double digits. Hopefully this becomes number 9, and then we are like got 10 championships. Like, that's mint.
Yeah. I just think like you get a lot of people in sport, in life in general, they go, no, of course I'm not going to, I think that's bullshit, and I think that was a very honest answer. I think
everyone's scared of failure.
Of course, you have the fear of failure is more powerful.
It's embarrassing. You don't want to be. No one wants to be embarrassed, do they? It's just, you just don't want it. It's just nobody wants that. No. And I think if you do go in thinking, "Oh, this might not work," you shouldn't be doing it. Because it's just, you're already starting off on the back foot, aren't you? But I think this can't be done with just my brother and I, like it is the people around us, and they are amazing.
Sorry, Josh. I think we were talking about that legal element. I think what was we're talking about your granddad, and obviously, you've built a very successful business. And a lot of people will be probably listening to this going, oh, she's got bags of money, you can buy what you want. That really isn't. Sitting in the kitchen, we had a bit more of an in-depth conversation inside, but it's like, you really are. You need the sponsors.
100%. Without them, this team doesn't happen.
There we are.
My granddad can help all he wants, but there's not this sort of infinite pot of money that you just, oh God, granddad.
There's only so many chickens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone keep eating chickens. KFC, go for it. Nando's, get stuck in. Because that pot of money ends. Yeah. But, so you do need sponsors, and this doesn't run without sponsors. Any team, whether you're top of the paddock or the very bottom, it's just not going to happen.
I think it sort of gets us when we're chatting about this is what you said about graduating to be a PBM rider is so true. There's probably people in the paddock who have even had the conversation or maybe the opportunity and never done it, or it's never happened. They've never been selected because they're good.
Yeah, but they're not good enough.
You're not shaky.
Yeah.
And you're not.
And that was my dad's mentality.
And that is a byproduct of the success he's built up over the years.
100%. And that's all down to him. That was the way it is.
And I'm sure that people at home listening to this and watching BSB probably think that you have the pick of riders. And that selecting riders, championship winners for you is easy.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not.
It's a headache.
Yeah.
It's a massive headache because you've got so many contributing factors. Like for any team, your sponsors have to agree. It's not just one person says that's it. Because if I pick a rider, I don't know, a 200 grand sponsor doesn't like, well, they're going to pull 200 grand, and then that's, imagine without that, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So all parties have to be happy, and it is hard.
And there's more than this is a really difficult topic, but so results are very important.
Sure.
It's what we go racing for. And one, you doesn't survive without the other. But there's more to the job than just doing good work.
Yeah.
So 100%. So it isn't just what happens on the track. It's what happens in the garage and how the team react. And
it's easily 90% off track, 10% on.
Yeah,
like we've always said in our family, happy is fast. So the biggest way I've seen it is like when we've been picking teams for my brother to go into. So for instance, car racing is quite different to bike racing. You go, you do a test with a team, you test the waters, see how you feel. If you're not happy, you don't have to sign. You could go and find another team.
Yeah.
Bike racing doesn't work that way. It's really hard to describe, but you show that you can ride the bike. You have a meeting. You tell me you can win on the bike, and we can win together.
It's a bit less if your face fits, isn't it?
Yeah, massively.
So my understanding of it is with the car world, from what I've experienced of it is, and I mean this with the greatest respect, is how much is it to drive that car?
Correct.
I want to drive it.
Yeah.
That's the crack. Obviously, teams still have to have someone who can win and all the rest of it. But if I wanted to and I had the budget, I could go and pretty much pick what car I wanted to go into
straight away
and do that. Whereas bike racing's not unlike that, and it's become more like that, which I think is a crying shame.
Sure.
It has become more like that over the years, and you could say it's because of the economy or whatever.
It's an expensive thing.
It's just
the way it is.
But for example, you're not prepared to take someone because it could take... Would you take a lesser rider because it could take budget? No.
See,
because we had that opportunity going into this year.
That won't be the only time. I bet that is braid on your door, you and your dad's door.
I can bring this money, that I can bring that. And so there was a particular rider that came in, I could bring X amount. So he said, I will take half of that amount as my wage, so we didn't have to pay a wage, and the team could keep the other half. So you're on a win-win situation there. They just weren't going to be a PBM rider. It just wasn't going to happen.
Maybe not yet.
Maybe no. So this was an older rider. Like, you'd be very surprised at who it was. It was an older rider. It happens. I was shocked when my dad told me. I was shocked.
You know what the worst thing is, Josh? We won't even find out. That's how professional she is. Everyone will be going.
We haven't had a second cup of tea yet, Dom.
The best thing is, though, people will be messaging us going, "Can you tell us who that was?" We'll be like, "Unfortunately, we didn't get him."
But it is such a shame, though, that it is so money related, but that is just the way, that's the way the world is at the minute.
Well, it's just, why would it, it's people's jobs at the end of the day, I get that, but also at the same time, like, why should you be, people going about money, listen, there's lots of money in football. There's equal amount of money in bike racing and car racing and all the rest of it. The top 1%.
The setups are unbelievable.
But the top 1% of any sport, the top 1% of performers in any sport is where the money's earned.
Of course it is.
So in BSB, the top 1% earn good money.
But it's like an office job. You own the company. You will take the most money from it. That's whether you're a bike racer or you work at McDonald's. If you're on the fries, you're not going to be earning as much as the man who owns McDonald's, are you? The way it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's just what happens.
If you're on the fries, that can be the name of the pod.
Name of the pod.
On the fries.
But it's Poor Bird Motorsport. From the outside looking in, as always, I don't think you could take money. I think that would totally... From a rider. No.
Do you know, I don't ever know.
Like I say,
no. So, for instance, Glenn did bring some money to the team when he first signed for us because he wasn't. He wasn't done well, proven. But he wasn't proven at all, and that's he's the one person I would say would go off the normal for my dad. Because he wasn't proven at that point, and that again earlier I said timing was everything.
But you had the show pony, which is.
We had Shaky.
No, but that's very interesting. But it's a bit like we interviewed Alan Garney. He was talking about he's been diagnosed with prostate cancer, and obviously his team element, and it's like he prides himself on the sheer fact of like everyone in my team gets paid.
Yes,
and that is at professional level. And you're talking about that 1%, and you're on that 1% club alongside with the rest of these top
we are
teams.
So fortunate that we've got great sponsors that are mega with us, and if we truly believed that person was going to be good enough, we'd make it happen. That's just what you do. If they were going to be maybe not a champion in the first year, but maybe the second year, third year, you make it happen. That's to be successful, you have to be proactive and you have to make it happen, don't you?
I think there's just a balance. People we talk about partnerships in business in general, and you would say you have the head and the heart, but I'm going to use a prime minister as an example. So most prime ministers are knobheads, and we don't want to follow them.
No.
So in actual fact, what the 90% of people probably don't, well, they do realise, I'm not trying to tell about suck eggs, but if you think about the Prime Minister, really, he has to be a leader. The people behind him do all of the work.
The groundwork, yeah.
And you need, and I don't mind saying this, I think like a Prime Minister, for example, is 60% business, 40% heart.
Yeah.
And I think racing's the same.
Exactly the same. So I think a bit more heart, to be honest, because you have to be passionate about it.
Exactly right. So the business element of it needs to happen because it needs paying for. You need to make sensible decisions.
Doesn't happen on fresh air, does it?
Yeah. Them black things that you put on last 20 minutes and they go in the bin.
Correct. And then you've got to buy another set. Yeah. I actually didn't realise how much the tyre bill cost, and I had a look. I was like, ooh.
And no one wants to buy them.
That's some handbags and shoes in there.
Lots of people might think, oh yeah, but they'll sell them tyres to people who do tractors and stuff. No,
they're knackered.
They don't want them.
You go to Cadwell, to Thruxton, them tyres are going in the bin.
So on a Friday, you can use 3 sets of tyres. How much is a set of tyres? Like 400 quid?
Yes.
420 quid.
Yeah. So
that's a lot of dough, isn't it?
It's a lot of dough. Like, that's just
a lot of trees.
That's just one bite.
Yeah, you better get to work.
Exactly what I mean. So I think what you...
And a lot of chickens.
Chickens and trees. That could be a name. That could be a name as well.
Yeah, chickens and trees.
My point is that actually, you can make on pay. If you looked at it as a balance sheet, you'd make the wrong decision. If you just looked at racing as a balance sheet, if you looked at transport as a balance sheet, you'd walk everywhere, but it's not practical.
Yeah.
Right? There's got to be a big element of heart and passion in racing.
And common sense.
Yeah.
A bit of common sense as well sometimes.
Yeah,
nothing common about common sense.
Your riders have said something. Your riders have said some things this year that one have pissed you off and definitely pissed other people off. But they're fucking both doing the job.
Yes.
Aye. So there's
this is my thing. Because we've had a bit. We had a crap weekend. Everyone is down in the dumps, and we've got a PBM group chat, and I just fired a message in saying, we've won 16 races.
P45.
Yeah. But I said we've won 16 races this year. Both riders have won 8. We have absolutely ripped it up. We are going into the last round, 1 and 2 in the championship. This is a dream. It's an absolute dream. On the flip side, it's an equal nightmare because it is so much pressure on you and so much stress. Like it's hard, but this is what we've worked all year for. This is 10 rounds of the year. This is winter. This is every day in the workshop. This is testing in Spain. This is money being spent like that. This is what we've worked for.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how upset would you be if the lads don't win a championship?
Oh my God, it'd be horrendous. Like, there is not one part of me that thinks one of my boys cannot win this championship.
They can. Oh, no, they're capable.
100%, I know, but you just never... That's why we love racing, because you just never know what can happen. It's just one of those things. It's not turning up to work. This is exactly what's going to happen today. Just not what happens. Yeah. It's just not the way it is.
And like,
it would be horrendous.
Zero. You're gonna set the world on fire.
Yeah, way past the rev limiter at this point. It would be devastating, because this championship,
getting in a helicopter, leaving.
Or getting really, really pissed. It could be one or the other.
Oh God, I'm going to be.
So basically, whatever happens,
we're going to be really pissed on Sunday night. That's it.
We'll just be happy tears or sad tears.
Exactly. It's going to be one or the other. But it'll be devastating.
Don't come in the box.
Do not come. Yeah. Just give her a drink.
The thing is, though, I really feel for you because you should you can't have team orders because both lads can win the championship. Yes. So the only team order you can have is don't you crash into him and you don't crash into him.
Correct.
But it's the last race on Sunday and the championship's up for grabs. The first and second. Whoever wins is going to win.
And
may the best man win, because it could have been. It could be Glenn fighting with Leon. It could be Tommy fighting with Kyle. We don't know who it's going to be, and whether they're teammates or not. May the best man win.
If the tables turn and one of your lads is in a basically, let's say one of them's in for a shout, one of them changes, whatever. Yes. We don't need to go into detail. They're fighting against Leon or Kyle.
Yes.
Is there going to be some team orders?
So you could fire out team orders. Whether they would listen, because for that person who isn't fighting for the championship anymore, they don't care.
Yeah, but they don't care, but they should.
But they should for the team. 100%
and that's
agree.
where your priority lies for.
And whether you two are racers, you both race. Could you switch that mentality off that I've got to do this for the team?
You should.
You should. 100% agree you should.
Yeah.
But could you? In your heart of hearts and be...
I'll never be able to answer that question because I've never been in that position.
Yeah.
No, but in the same... If you want to ride next year...
Yeah, you'd like to think you'd be the better person and you could do it.
Yeah, but let's use Tom Sykes and Loris Baz as a perfect example. Yes. I honestly think that Loris Baz slowed his career down by doing what he did.
I totally agree with that. Now, as a racer, that moment will not be forgotten.
It's just a moment in time.
But neither will my lot from Donington. I'm like, oh no, this is because. Did you see on Twitter? It was Hodgson and Chris Walker, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There's big circulator. I'm like, oh no, that's however many years ago. Yeah. This is going to happen to us. Like, once this has happened, it's out. Like, that's not, you cannot rewind it. That's out.
The thing is, though, what people probably Tommy did not intentionally crash into Kyle, but he's the basically, it was just collateral damage. That could have been anybody. Unfortunately, just happened to take out Glenn.
It was very close
It was
to being
like-
Kyle and Glenn.
It was
though.
like, oh shit.
It could have been 3 of them, and then Leon had been like, "Oh yeah, game on."
Yeah.
You know, that could have very easily have happened then,
Yeah.
and that's racing.
Right, let's talk about Brands Hatch final race.
Yes.
1-2.
Yes.
Your riders.
Stress.
1-2. Right.
Yeah.
Saw the team order situation. Right, and I am touching wood while I say
Yeah.
this. Right.
Same.
Last corner.
Yeah.
Both riders go off.
Honestly.
No. Like, let's talk about that.
Honestly.
Would be the most remembered. Like you know
In
when
history.
you know Hopkins in
Yeah.
the topic. Like you know
That was remembered for all the good reasons.
No, it was for good. But
Yes.
this
Yeah.
for sheer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be.
But it could happen.
It could happen.
course
But
it
let's
could
talk about. Let's talk in fantasy land.
Yeah,
Let's talk about.
This is like the worst Fantasyland ever. Though. I
problem
don't
you-
want to be there.
Yeah, but you're gonna.
But that
so
would be
the reality
yeah.
for you is
sponsor. Like no, you know, there's a business element, and you're
Yeah.
going to sponsors going. Look, that's how much
They both want it.
we'll go racing, and it's almost sellable and unsellable. It's like you can't control your team,
I
but look,
think
this is racing, and
If
it's
you
like
look, so say, take me out. I am just a normal bike fan. I love it.
yeah.
You look at PBM and what's happened the last few weeks.
everyone's on the edge
The
of this.
ticket sales at Brands Hatch, though, are going to be mental. It is like there's already an extra 5,000 people just because of that, and the crowds we have at Brands for the last round are always
Always
mega.
excellent, yeah.
But now, like there is fuel on that fire, and people are going to want to see it. So, mint for a fan, being in it and being inside that, because I'm right in the middle. You know, my brother and I are right in the middle of that pressure cooker. Like, you don't want to be in that situation, but equally at the start of the year, I would have dreamed to have been in this situation. So I can't imagine.
The biggest thing for you, which, and I'm sorry to keep repeating it, is everything's out of your control. I'm trying to think of a scenario where you could do something that would impact that.
I'm trying to
One
write.
can't.
One can't help the other, and you might be in a position where if they both go down, someone else is going to win it.
Yes. Well, it's happened.
Not to mention, you could get a bad tyre,
Yeah,
or
you
you could
just-
have a mechanical.
It
or
could literally be anything.
She's not going to sleep a wink.
No, I'm like, oh my God, you've stressed me out.
Never on my drive again, lads.
Yeah.
Ever.
But what I would say is you're smiling when I'm saying that. You're not.
Because it's that awkward. No.
It's so
It is, but like, you think that happens, because it could happen. It might not happen to me. It might happen 20 years down the line.
Yeah.
That could happen. That would be horrendous. And you laugh, but that would be awful.
Yeah, but to be fair, you can probably, and at once them boys roll out, I mean, the weekend will unfold how it'll
Of course
unfold.
it will.
You can enjoy it at that point.
Yeah.
Well, you can try
Yeah.
because it's out your hands.
Yeah, it is. As long, for me, the things I can control, that the boys prep the bikes in the best way possible, which they always do, whether this is round 1 or the last round and you're fighting for the championship. Those bikes will roll out the garage how they have done every single race. Yeah. And I fully believe that. The crew chiefs will again do exactly their job that they've been doing all year to the best of their abilities. My riders, again, train as hard as they can, eat good, do everything they can off track so that when they get to the racing, they get on their bike and all they have to worry about is what's for tea and riding my bike.
Yeah.
That's it.
I personally, it's Harley Rushton for me in your team. I think it's 100. It's all him. Nothing to do with you,
Harley,
your brother.
you're a ledge.
He's the only one who listens to the show. He's there. him and
Harley's
Oversby there.
there.
Good lads.
No, we love Harles. He is. Do you know what? He is the most calming guy. He's so.
The only reason I mention him is so all the rest of the team take the piss out of him. You know that, don't you? Like, they're
they
gonna
do
lay
that
him.
anyway, though. You don't have to. Yeah, but he's mint. Yeah, you like
I think
Harley.
I met him at the TT.
He's normally walking around with no top on.
Yeah, Harley was at the TT. He'll have been pissed because Adam Morgan, the touring car driver, it was his stag do at the TT.
No, I think you introduced
Harles
us to him.
was there.
He can pedal a bike. Have you get him
Harley,
signed up?
yeah.
Have you seen him ride a bike?
Might get a little classic one out for Harley.
No. So put him on he can pedal a motorcycle.
Yeah, do you know what?
He can pedal a motorcycle.
He does. When he crashes, he does like a good crash. Though he comes to work after a race weekend. He's got a bit of
Gravel rush.
Taking his top off
He's
again.
limping. He's like, he like limps in, dragging his neck. I'm like, oh Harley, did you have? Oh, it was terrible. Like he's obviously asking for
100%. But
attention,
but seriously, that lad can pedal a bike. But like you say, the whole team's got experience and they understand the pressure.
Yeah.
No one's going, well, this is new to me. You know, they understand the pressure.
So that's actually not right. There are a few people that have never experienced this before in the team, genuinely. So some of them have never ever experienced this, and that is a lot of pressure for them. The lads that have done it before, this is a walk in the park, but my dad wouldn't have employed them if they couldn't hack it.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
As that. If they couldn't hack it, they wouldn't be here.
Because how many staff have you got to look after?
So off the top of my head, we've got 28 on a race weekend. So you have, obviously you've got your rider, you've got your tyre man, you've got your chief mechanic, you've got your second mechanic, and then
your Harley Rushtons,
you've got your little Harles is the tyre man.
Yeah.
Crucial. Without them, we ain't going anywhere, are we? But there's a lot per bike. Then you've obviously got your data engineers too. So plus hospitality staff, plus truck drivers, plus the people that work in the office, because you've got payroll, you've got all these you've got insurances to pay for, you've got all the normal life shit that needs done.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people. There are a lot of us, but everybody is mint.
Yeah.
And
they've got the best hospitality as well.
Yeah, it's quite cool. Do you know what though?
It's mint.
My dad, it was the worst thing he ever bought. Looks mint. So it's all fur coat, no knickers. That's what they say, isn't it?
Sorry. Can I touch on that? Why is that a bad thing?
Oh, because
No, not that. I mean the saying.
Yes.
Fur coat, no knickers.
Yeah.
That sounds great to me.
Because
if a woman walked in with just a fur coat on, no knickers to slow the job down.
Days.
I'm just thinking, if you said to your wife, no fur coat, no knickers, you'd be like, please.
Yeah,
I'm just putting that out there to the world of it.
Maybe let's think of a different phrase then. So.
I want to recreate that, because to me, fur coat, no knickers sounds outstanding.
You've misinterpreted that phrase.
Yeah, you have, sorry. Get your head out that gutter ASAP.
Not a chance. That gutter.
Oh, Dominic, moving on.
Whose present, you
were saying about the hospitality job.
Get over yourself. Penrith, even there.
Yeah, even worse. No, so yes, hospitality looks mint. It's trick, it's proper cool, it's spaceshipy. You go inside, you get about 25 people in there at a push.
Yeah, not massive,
it's just not going to work. So downstairs, so you the sort of go together so you can drive normally. So one of the trucks, the bottom half is all kitchen, which is perfect. The other side of it is an office. Does anybody use that office? Dad thought he was going to. My dad had a laptop that never turned on, so he was never going to. Yeah, he was never going to use that.
Was it just an intimidation tactic?
I reckon so.
It, someone walk in and go.
Yeah, it was probably one of them kids ones that flashed a little bit and did a few songs. But so the office never gets used. So that's downstairs is a right. There's a toilet in there too, actually, that's full of boxes. That's our storage room. So downstairs is a write-off. You go upstairs. One side of the truck is all where your food goes and a little desk and all the rest of it. Then the other, that is a quarter of the truck, is where people sit.
So could we see would you like to make any big changes for next year?
That is probably the only thing I would change.
Really?
And my dad was in full agreement with me on that. He said, I fucked up. That was the worst thing I ever did.
we went to pick the Martry and truck up, and your truck was there being finished. And we were like, whoa, that's going to look unreal. Then when we see Nick Wub, and it was like, that actually looks difficult to put together.
Do you know, it's not too bad. It's not too bad.
For people who haven't seen it, I mean, we're Jordan's talking it down here. It is cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
But it is two articulated lorries that lift up and then
you just join them together in the middle.
With a bit of flooring.
It does give me anxiety when I'm up there, though, because there's this... just a bit of floor that's put in there every week, and I'm like, oh.
Who fitted this?
Yeah, if one of you lads hasn't put that, I'm going straight through that. So if the chair's on it, I just scoot.
Just scooch it over.
But you have your own hospital, so people can pay tickets and obviously.
No, so at the minute, no.
Are you?
So we are purely just friends and sponsors and team. That's it.
Nice.
So that would be something that I will be doing into next year. So we will have a VIP sort of.
You can expand that side of it.
Yeah. So we'll have a totally different hospitality. And people can pay to come, and you get your little goodies, and you get a riders Q&A, and you get the experience of being in with the BSB team. You'll get a garage tour. It'll be a mint day out. So that is one thing, because it's also revenue coming in for the team. That's money coming in. So that's one thing that I will be doing next year. So anybody, you know, from outside of racing who isn't a sponsor, that, you know, doesn't have the money to put big, because it is big money to be a sponsor. That's just the way it is.
Of course it is,
You know, you've got your little bit of spends or your birthday money, and you want to come to a BSB race, and that's how you can do it.
And before we move on to like the Patreon questions,
Yes.
I'm kind of leading on. I'll have to go check through the phone. I must ask, what's the future of Paul Bird Motorsport and Ducati? Is that a guarantee, or is it not, or is it?
So we are a customer of Ducati. So if we say we want to go again, it's you go and chat with them and you talk, you know, logistics. You know how it's going to work. They are fully behind us.
Fantastic.
Fully behind us, and it's a case of don't fix it if it's not broken. I love Ducati. My brother loves Ducati. The riders love it. Everybody thinks it's mega. I can't see PBM and Ducati not being a pair for long into the future.
Because when there has been like bereavement in families, you know, a deal was struck with someone else, you know, and that someone else being your dad, you know, it's always that element, isn't it?
Are you here for PBM or were you here for Paul Bird?
Exactly.
100%. But they've been brilliant. So myself, my brother and Johnny, our team manager, we will go to Italy over winter and we're going to get a tour of the factory, and because I've met everybody.
Big bags filling them. There's a swinging arm.
That'll do. But like I've met them as Paul's daughter, you know, at MotoGP event. I've gone with my dad for the day out, and that's how I've met them. I haven't, you know, my brother and I haven't met them as the bosses of a team. So that will be something that will happen over winter.
That must be daunting. Like that.
Yeah,
that
it's cool though, isn't it?
No, it's you're like we said at the beginning of this interview. Within 10 minutes, you can see these. Like bring it. You've got this.
I'm not a sponge at the minute. I am taking in as much as I can, because that's the only way I can learn. I am just taking it all in. Every day's a school day at the minute. But that makes life exciting, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's like when you referred to the beginning of this, the shadow. It's like it's not really. It's not a shadow. It's incredible.
See the main bosses of Ducati in MotoGP, you know, giving messages about your dad on the TV.
They are.
It is everything you need to know, really.
Yeah, of course it does. 100%. Yeah, definitely.
But it's like it's just great sitting here, because it's just like you're not a pushover. And that is definitely the persona I'm like, and it's like people watching this are going to go, right, actually.
I am actually quite nice, but you can't be a pushover, can you? Because like we said,
not what you're going into.
You're like a silent assassin,
it's always the quiet ones.
You're just a nice person, which is when I was kind of interested to see how you're going to...
I do think you do need to be like that, because when you're pissed off, they need to know that you're pissed off.
100%, yeah.
And if you're twat all of the time and they've annoyed you, they're going to just think you are how you are all the time. Whereas when you're mint and you're happy and it's mega, but when you're pissed off, they know about it because you're a different person then. And then there does need to be that, because sometimes you know what you're going to get with my dad. You thought, oh my God, I heard the footsteps coming up. I'm like, no, he's coming in. And you think, oh, I hope he's in a good mood. That I don't want to be like that. I want it to be, when it's good. But when you've done something wrong, you're
getting it.
Yeah.
But that's like that's how
that's how it is.
That lacks in the world now, innit? People just don't have a put like you should.
I agree.
You can barely sack someone now, but in the same breath, it's like you put it up, son. You're getting the boot
out.
Well, no, you should. But that's
of
how
course it is.
Sign of a good leader, that I would say.
Go.
Right,
some of these questions are fantastic. One thing I'll just call out at the start is every single one of them just is wishing you well.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind.
We won't read all of them out, obviously, but I'll send you them so that everybody knows that you've seen them. But yeah, everyone's wishing you really well. The first question, which I think is really great, is from Jess Mortimer, and he's asking, who was there anybody that your dad ever tried to sign or wanted in the team that you couldn't get?
Ooh. Oh, I like that, Jess.
That is actually a really good question. Do you know, I actually don't think there is. I genuinely don't think.
Yeah, I can't think. I was reading.
There's probably been a few conversations with riders that maybe didn't want to come to BSB, that were maybe in World Superbikes, that were, but because do you know? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I actually genuinely. I probably will go to bed tonight and be like, oh no, him.
Well, if you do,
then I will let you guys know. But no, I actually don't think there is.
I can well believe that, because I can't remember where we were, it was before the round before Assen when you hired Hager.
Yeah, that was cool, wasn't it?
I remember you saying like, oh, he's hired Hager, just to be typical me dad. Like, just it was like Hager, just like so out of the blue.
It was so random,
and it was great. And he was up there fighting at Assen, and
his helmet's on the wall actually. When like our friends,
No, no.
When like friends come round,
I can think of one. That was a rumor. Sorry. Finish.
Go on. No, you go.
Troy Bayliss. In the end of one season, there was a rumor whether it was true or not, but that's the only thing I can think of.
But also, then that is early days where we hadn't actually proved ourselves then at that point. No, so why would you?
I was thinking there was a rumor. Well, I can't remember now. It was like recently.
Find out.
Might have been when Hager came to ride the bike. Oh no, it was when Andrew rode the bike when Shaky got injured.
Oh, there was that rumour. That was my dad. I think that was one of my dad's rumours that he started.
To like get the thing going.
Yeah, you obviously went for hook, line and sinker because we couldn't remember it.
That's the only one I can think of, rumour sort of, that never materialised.
My brother would probably know that. I'll have to ask him. He'd probably know that question better than I would.
Sorry, I massively interrupted your Hager story about the helmet.
So his helmet's on the wall, and any friends that come round this house and bike racing go in and they're like, oh my God, and their eyes light up. And then you realise Hager was... He's
cool guy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We've got his helmet on the wall.
Who would be your dream signing?
It depends which. I would love to say Valentino Rossi. Anybody would. Yeah. That's the cliche answer. A dream like today, Marc Marquez, he could be riding for us. You just don't know. He's obviously gone out of Honda.
Ducati.
He has it's Ducati. It just might not be the one you're thinking of. That would obviously... But I would say this year, if you're asking me a BSB question, these two have been mega. We're 1 and 2 in the championship. Yeah. They've won 8 races.
You couldn't pick anybody else.
They're a dream. But my dream, if I could, would be Shaky.
I love that you said that. Yeah.
If I, hand on heart, genuinely think if he hadn't have had his injury, he would still be racing now.
Yeah, I agree.
100%. But my dream signing would be him.
I like that.
Yeah, you should read his book. It's amazing, and he narrates it as well. So if you listen to the audio book, it's his voice, like it's him. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I think he would definitely. He's got to be the dream signing.
I would believe that. Yeah,
I've got a cracking question from our patrons. Marshall Osborne, what was Paul's most embarrassing moment, according to you, in life in general?
There's a few. No, so I did the little speech at my dad's funeral, and one of the ones was probably more embarrassing for me than my dad.
Oh God, share
it was my first year at school, so I would have been like 4 or 5, and my mum got a call in to go to the head teacher's office, and they're like, oh, Jordan's mint, she's great, she's a great student. I was like, yeah. But she's got a wild imagination, and mum's like, oh God, right, okay. And she said, oh, she could be playing in the playground, and if a helicopter goes over, she says, that's probably my dad. We think that's great. She's aware of her surroundings, mega. And my mum laughed and she went, oh, well,
were you in sniper school by any chance? She was aware of her surroundings.
It gets better. So my mum's like, it probably is her dad. And what my dad used to do was dive bomb my school. So if he was heading to Brands Hatch or heading south, because with our mum, we live 2 hours from here, and he used to dive bomb my school playground in a helicopter. That's the coolest thing ever. But I was embarrassed, but... My dad, I remember his most embarrassing thing was in Penrith, being out for dinner, no alcohol was consumed, crossing a road, and the zebra crossing was on a bit of a lip, and he went down like a sack of shit. He was a big bloke, and he hit the ground so hard, and he laid there for a second. There were cars everywhere. That would have been the moment where he would have wanted the ground to swallow him up. Yeah, so that has got to be his embarrassing moment.
I love it. That is a fantastic answer.
There's a cracker here about, we kind of touched on it. I mean, there's a few asking about team orders and etc. etc. So we've covered.
We end up covering a lot of it.
So we've covered that. But when we did touch on this a little bit was, do you see in the future any involvement in support classes with PBM as a banner, you know.
Definitely. Ultimately, it all comes down to costing.
Yeah.
Of course it does. But I would love, you know, there are some young riders that I would love to that aren't ready to come to Superbikes yet, but will be one day.
Need nurturing.
And like we say, to become a PBM rider, you've got to earn it. But you've got to start somewhere.
But you've got history of that with Stuart Easton.
Yeah, and like Keith Farmer was a fine example of that. You know, he came in, won 2 championships in 2 years, you know, and he was prime example of that. And, you know, it didn't work out in Superbikes with him, but we had some great success together. So he would be one of the success stories of that for sure.
Excellent.
I must ask, and people will be screaming at us when I ask this, but what's your view on the road racing?
So,
on roads and
I actually went to the TT for the first time as an adult this year. I fucking loved it.
Me too.
It was mint.
Me too.
It was mint. I loved it. And now, because I've always thought, oh God, the TT, you know, it's one of those taboo subjects. It was unbelievable. As soon as I got there, my dad, do you know what? That was dad goals that week. He said, I'm going to come and pick you up. So he picked us up in the helicopter and flew over. Did not like flying over the sea. Won't be doing that again in a helicopter, but it was great. Got there, and we literally got there in time for, I can't remember what session it was. And where we were walking, I can't even remember where we were. We were walking through a load of trees, and it was at a campsite at Kirkmichael it was. And there's a campsite down at the bottom.
Yep.
And we watched at a car garage, and to get to the car garage, you had to walk through the campsite and up. I could hear the bikes coming from miles away, and instantly I felt that buzz. And you get it at BSB, but you do not get that feeling. I've never experienced at BSB or MotoGP or wherever we've been. I loved it.
Is he now becoming a team owner?
Yeah, you've got to think about these things.
No, you don't have to. There's always that one element. Now you've had that now. So do you want...
I worry, if we did do it, would that zap all the fun element out of it and the enjoyment? Would that just be so high pressure for me and the boys in my team that it would zap the fun out of it? I don't know. You don't know it until you're in the situation. But at the moment, I can't see us doing the TT because, you know, my dad, the Ducati just probably is not.
It's probably not the thing to go around there.
It would sound mint. Crowds would love it. It would be amazing. But would it be the bike to do it on? I actually don't think so.
It's interesting to see this like immediately you had competitive nature from a very young age. And now it's like, right, we've got this. You want to turn this page in your book, your family book. And it's a bit, let's get this British Championship done. It's just, I'm really looking forward if you'll let us back on your drive in a couple of years. No, and then see where
the
next,
it's
you know what I mean? You're like at the TD, actually, your dad's got his name on the truck, Paul Bird.
Yeah. But would it
what
be
about
mine?
Jordan?
Yeah.
You know, does Jordan want to win a TT?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's interesting, you know what I mean?
The Northwest, as long as we have Glenn, we will probably do the Northwest.
There's just where it is. It's
mega, you know, and it's good. But again, it all comes down to funding. If I can have enough money to do it and do it properly, I will do it. My brother's mega keen on Macau. So he wants to drive Macau. Exactly. So now my new dream is to have our race. My brother would be a team owner and a racer at the same time on the same weekend. That's never happened before. So I would love our bike team to go to Macau and my brother race at the same time.
And Glenn's won Macau's.
Correct. Yeah. But that's not, my riders have to fully want to go. I can't say, you know, do you fancy it? They need to come to me and say, right, I really want to do BSB and I want to do Macau. I want to do BSB and I want to do the TT.
It's funny because what you were just talking about Macau there, when I mentioned that
the entries are open, Jordan. Yeah. The entries are open, and I'm just putting that out there.
About that.
Just you know, Glenn might have a spare bit of time in November. I'm just chucking fuel on the fire. Yeah. Go win a Macau, man. Stop being a shy bag, Jordan. Go win a Macau.
So we did genuinely truthful honesty here. We had the opportunity to go to Macau.
Yeah.
But Macau's got a load of money. We know that. Everybody knows it's a wealthy, wealthy place. They just didn't offer us enough money to go.
Yeah.
And it would have cost me a fortune to go.
Yeah. 100%.
And then ultimately you're going for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
Because I'm then going to try and get money or earn money or it costs nothing, and then you're going in the wrong place straight away.
You want to do it with your brother.
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
And I think everyone tip up and it be mega. So never say never to that. The TT, I am not convinced about. I love going and I love being a spectator.
Yeah. Then you maybe should continue that.
Exactly.
You maybe will continue
but
to
never
enjoy
say,
it.
you just never know. You just never know.
It's very very interesting. I love it.
Yeah.
But no, it's important to know having Paul Bird, like, PBM back in the paddock.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm putting the pressure on.
Yeah,
but
having
you're a foundation of this sport.
Yeah.
Like it or lump it, you are a foundation in this motorsport and motorcycle racing. And obviously in the future, obviously not right now, but I would love to see you walking on Glen Country Road with a rider. You know what I mean? Going, we're here.
Yeah.
That's what I hope for. And because I'm a biased road fan.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Of course.
And
but I 100% now, after going this year, know why people are so obsessed and love it, because it was probably one of the best few days of my life I've ever had. It was mega.
That was my last memory of your dad.
Yeah,
I did first superbike race.
Yeah.
It went all right for us. And your dad was mid conversation with someone. And he stopped talking to them and marched straight over to us. And I went, do I owe him 20 quid or something? And I'm surprised he remembered me. I'm not even just saying that. And he just stuck his hand out and went, fucking outstanding.
Did he?
And I'm just going, I'm not Michael Dunlop. I'm not going to ruin this.
Yeah, I'm gonna be nice for once. I'm not gonna be into that.
No. Your dad's always been a gentleman. You know, he's welcoming into your home, and you know that. You know, we're just talking about your dogs, and you know you just got them the day beforehand.
Exactly. UK. I picked up the dogs and you came the next day. Chrissy wasn't sure on them. He wasn't a big fan.
No, he wasn't scared. He was a bit cautious around dogs.
He was not keen.
No, he wasn't.
Don't be kind to him, because he was not keen on them at all.
There's me.
Yeah, you were.
I'm a dog person, you know. But seriously though, it's like, you know, that demeanour off the hard face Paul Bird, and no, he was a perfect gentleman.
Well, he was a dad. He was a dog lover. He was, you know, it wasn't just his race team. There was a lot more to my dad than met the eye.
And people don't have to go out their way to be nice.
Nope.
And I think and he was so, and you know, Grace made it to your father's funeral. You know, unfortunately I was at hospital at the time, but he was incredibly kind to Chrissy and supported Chrissy, and you know, he came over and shook my hand.
I would fully say now, it's easy for me to say, I genuinely think Chrissy Rouse would have been on one of our bikes. Whether it was with my dad or whether it was with me, 100%, without a doubt, Chrissy Rouse would have been a PBM rider at some point.
I think probably people don't know that.
You know, I'm not being funny. You know, after everything you just said about becoming a PBM rider, thank you for saying, like, and I'm not even, you know, I'm his mate. You know what I mean? Like,
perfect example of deserving it, because he worked his arse off. He worked so hard for everything he ever did, and he was just a nice guy. You know, there's a lot of twats around this place. We know that. But
there's two on your drive.
Yeah, well, yeah. Anyway, but he genuinely was one. Not even just being a nice guy, but he had the talent, and my dad 100% would have put him on one of our bikes at some point.
That is,
without a doubt.
People probably don't know that your dad was a supporter of Chrissy.
Yeah, my dad adored Chrissy, and you know, my dad helped in the tiniest way, whether it was a little bit of guidance or, you know, and they ate with us in hospitality. We had a couple of his guests, and we just made Chrissy's life that tiny bit easier, where his fans, family, friends, whoever had a little base, and they could come for a coffee, they could come for their lunch, and you know, Chrissy could come in for his dinner. He didn't have to worry about what he had to eat. It was going to be there for him, and that it's a tiny thing that makes a big difference. And
it did make a big difference to him. I know that
it's just one bit. You know, you don't have to nip to Tesco's on your way to the track. It's just done for you.
And the family, obviously after Donington, you know, you know, the family were talking about that as well, and you know, honestly, that you put a smile on my face. And obviously Grace, you know, she works her ass up. This is her show, and she works her ass. So
she's smashing it.
So I'm going to say this for her right now, and she'll say this in person to you next time. But thank you so much for saying that, because you're not a bullshit.
No, exactly. Exactly.
Well, thank you for that.
On the subject of sponsorship, and obviously we've talked quite a lot about that and what it's required to run a race team and stuff. I just wanted to mention again that Bennett's are still doing the pit box at Brands, so they still have the pit perch on the pit wall, and they've got the last garage, which will be next to the door to the PBM garage.
Brands is mint for that though, because when you're in the championship and they do the final with the big heart, it's packed full of people,
Yeah.
and you actually can't get anywhere. But when you're with Bennett's, you've got that little barrier that just brings you out into pit lane. There's nobody getting in there. If you're with Bennett's, you're in there. It's a
VIP
prime spot. You can see the stress that's going through me, my team, the riders, and all the other teams. And you're in the prime spot. So if you see some colourful language, if you're with Bennett's, I do apologise in advance.
Yeah. So yeah, the Bennett's guys have got that stuff, which, as Jordan said, it's absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Like, you're not getting any closer to it. So that's a fantastic opportunity. And just a little bit of sort of catching up and news and stuff on our side. So unfortunately, we're going to be losing Colchester Kawasaki as a title sponsor of the podcast.
Yeah, so it's a case of, like we were talking about budgets, and we had Luke, who's kindly supported and sponsored Chrissy for years, and he's been in touch and said they're going to have to wind things back a little bit, which is more than fair. They've supported us for a long time, but that's
things evolve and things change, and that as good as they've been to you and as much as they've done for you, that then opens the door for another new partnership to follow.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hopefully, Grace puts her heart and soul in this, and obviously, we do as well. And if there's anyone seriously want to get in touch, we have the opportunities. Just also
bird opportunity there. Obviously it's a sad thing to be losing a partner, but also just a thank you to them as well. They've been a huge part of Chrissy's racing career as well as the pod. And another plug, I'm sporting a lovely cap here that Grace has had made.
How much has Grace given you? This is straight.
Favouritism.
She's got some...
You need to sort that out ASAP.
I'm never going to be the favourite.
She has done a good job.
To be fair, I've been hounding her for a cap for all year, and she's come up with these caps. I think they're really good. And there's a bobble hat as well.
We have the bobble hats, the travel mugs, the bottle openers, and we have the Christmas special lights.
I
know, we've got diamond necklaces. We've got knickers.
But basically, check out the website. So Grace will put the website in. Everything's on there. She's doing a cracking job with the website. That's a new venture for her. So all the support's appreciated.
She's working on coffee as well now. The girl never sleeps, so she's partnering up with Quick Shift of Coffee here. So she's going to get her own blend.
She's smashing it.
The girl does not stop. The girl does not stop, but I think you've absolutely tidied everything up beautifully at that point. And
that would have been Chrissy's job, wouldn't it? Well done.
Yeah,
that definitely wasn't your fault.
So what people don't realise is Grace is like amazing at scripting. No, she's not just
this is all Grace.
But no, Grace makes sure that we're armed with the info and stuff, and obviously we do get to spend a lot of time with Bennett, and a lot of the people who are involved with the pod will get to spend a lot of time with them. The guys from Quick Shift to come down, and Bennett's at every BSB meeting, and we do track days with them and stuff like that. So
they do a lot. Bennett's do a lot. It's mega. It's really, really good.
No, absolutely fantastic. And I think, obviously, we've got to shout out to the patrons. Please sign up. We need you more than ever. We've had Jess tonight, Paul, Shirley, Tony, I call her Cyril, just to wind her up. Cyril. She's from Carlisle. Cyril. You got Tony, Keith, Marshall. I'm just scooting through here. We've got Phil and Mike and Nick. You get shout outs on the show and get to speak to people like yourselves. You can leave voice notes.
So it's been amazing to meet some of the patrons and stuff as well. So. At Donington at the weekend, it's just every weekend you get some lovely comments from people, and it's really nice to hear. And
it can't happen without it.
Exactly,
they make all the difference, don't they?
Yeah,
might be like I was saying with selling tickets in hospitality. You might not be able to do a big sponsor like Colchester Kawasaki have done for these years, but you can do something tiny that makes quite a big difference.
100%. It's even simple things like the diesel, the editing software. People we do this because we love it and stuff, but we're not making money from it. But we need money to keep the show going, keep the show on the road. But there we are. But on that note, I must say thank you so much yet again, Jordan, for letting us just drink your coffee, sit on your drive, and I think the term "good luck's not good enough yet." You're gonna smash it. I'm excited for the future for you. You know what I mean?
I'd echo that. Yeah,
there's no doubt in it. So I just think. Just enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Present in the moment, both hands, and
no, thanks very much. We appreciate it. It's not an easy time.
Definitely, but we'll get there. We'll get there. No, thank you for having me.
No problem at all. Right, well, we'll catch you all next time. See you in a bit.